Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Renutyagi from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we will be talking about the module Economics of Aging under the paper Biosocial Gerontology. The learning objectives of this modules is to study the economics of aging and to discuss the concerns of elderly about monetary issues. Human life is normally divided into 5 main stages, that is infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood and old age. In each of these stages, an individual finds him or herself in different situations and faces different problems. In old age, the physical strength deteriorates, mental stability diminishes, flow of the money decreases, and negligence from the younger generation increases. Traditionally, the aged are assigned a place of honor and respect. Apart from the religion and social functions, the elderly pass on the social values. They play a valuable role in socializing with the young children and transmitting the social and cultural heritage. Because of the modernization, urbanization, migration and industrialization, the position and status of the elderly has been undermined, thereby devaluing the knowledge and the experience of the elderly and eroding their status. High cost of living, lack of residential accommodation and materialism have led to stress and strain for the elderly persons arising out of a feeling of being unwanted or isolated. The position of those without regular income becomes still more vulnerable and distressing. Now let's have a look at elderly generation in transition. The cherished values such as the respect of age, concerns for the elderly persons, devotion to one's duty, cooperations are now replaced by the competition, neglect of elderly and material disharmony, etc. Problems such as child neglect, behavior problem among children, indiscipline among the youth, alcoholism and drug addiction are on the increase today. And there are indications that the family is not able to handle the changes in a desirable manner. Improvement in our health care, nutritional food and socio-economic status have led to the demographic transition and increased life expectancy of the people. The number of the elderly people as a proportion of the total population has increased all over the world. The rate is more in developed countries as compared with the developing countries. Presently, India has the second largest aging population in the world. Due to the socio-economic challenges faced by the Indian elderly population, there are necessities of the elderly for specific health management to address the age-linked health problems. The government has allocated the funds to provide access to health system, socio-economic security, institutional care to elderly, and homes for the destitute. In the Western and industrially advanced countries, pension schemes and social security system of the government cover the economic needs of the old. However, in India, the situation is quite different. Nearly 90% of the total workforce in India is employed in the informal sector. Thus, social security offered by pension schemes is available to only 10% of the working population retiring from the organized sector. Many of the older persons who do not have any social security such as pension have to depend on the earning of their children for their sustenance and medical expenses. The need of the aged for the income is much more than any other section of the society. There could be various sources of income of an elderly person. Moreover, regular income provides emotional security or psychological satisfaction much more than physical security. India suffers from poverty. As a result of economic planning, per capita income in this country has reached a level which is still very low. Larger number of persons still live below poverty line. This, coupled with increasing unemployment and underemployment, makes problems of the aged and infirm more acute. The low income standard also affects the position of the retired and unattached aged person who are without any work to maintain themselves. Another factor responsible for economic dependence of the elderly in India is the absence of any organized system of substantial social security benefit to the elderly people. Therefore, a person who retires from the employment or who is unable to earn his living faces many difficulties. The situation becomes still worse if the man has not been able to fulfill his or her responsibilities of life or does not have anyone to support them. Therefore, for most aged person in this country, it is a question of maintaining themselves in the old age without sufficient means. Employment for the lighter work after retirement to the elderly people will not only provide necessary economic security but will also help them to keep themselves busy. Gainful and purposeful employment within the physical capacity of a man or a woman as a means of adding further to the retirement income, if any, will fill up a gap, which an older person feels at this stage of his or her life. Therefore, providing of employment to elderly is more important and necessary than providing old age pensions. Employing authorities, government industries, welfare organization should adopt a positive policy to give the elderly a fair chance based on their merits to compete for the available jobs. Some establishments have found retired people more useful for their work than the younger generation because the elderly have more maturity, experience, and sense of responsibility. It may be difficult for an elderly retired individual to start afresh. Hobbies like photography, leather work, plaster work, painting, basketry, preparedness of the decorative objects, literary work, toy making, if pursued with some skill, may help an elderly to supplement their income. Voluntary agencies interested in the welfare of the aged persons, particularly those running daycare centers or the clubs, could take up this work of providing employment opportunity to the elderly. However, in view of the rampant unemployment in the country, it may not be possible to offer the employment opportunity to a large number of retired or the elderly individual. Though for many it is a question of overcoming boredom and emptiness. Therefore, apart from organizing income supplementing projects, there is a dire need for gainful and purposeful utilization of their time and energy. Although the retired person enjoy the pensionary benefit, yet a large number of the elderly in India do not enjoy social security benefits. There is a high level of unemployment among the elderly, as very few aged persons manage to remain as part of the labor force. Many of the problems of the elderly have their origin in the loss of the income. Women generally do not have the concept of retirement in as much as they continue to look after the children, grandchildren and the household chores. This also applies to women who retire after a job. Thus, the main problem of the elderly is lack of employment and income. This is also due to the fact that most of the elderly do not have the occupational mobility. They are unable to change a job or occupation. Lack of the physical mobility in old age is also responsible for unemployment. Retirement from the employment also brings along with it a problem of adjustment, a sharp decline in income, loss of social status, and availability and utilization of the increased unscheduled time. Now let's see the different kind of social security among the elderly. The concept of social security has been in existence from the early ages. Indian social customs and traditions have a built-in system of social security. The social security measure seeks to prevent poverty, dependency and family disintegration. Therefore, the concept of the social security springs from the desire of men to free himself from the fear of want. The foundation of the social security are liberty and dignity of the human personality. Social welfare programs will be ineffective without a system of social security measures, since there are many problems which arise out of the economic insecurity. Social security refers to the action programs of a government intended to promote the welfare of the population through assistance, guaranteeing access to the sufficient resources for food and shelter, and to promote health and well-being in terms of economics for the population at large and potentially vulnerable segment such as children, elderly, sick and the unemployed. In India, majority of the people earn barely enough to survive during their productive years and are not able to save anything for the old age. The rapid population aging has brought social change and economic transformation. In view of this, a holistic approach to population aging has taken social, economic, and cultural changes into consideration that are needed to effectively solve the emerging problem of the elderly. Decentralization and equal distribution of the social security should be the agenda of the coming plan periods for the elderly population. Social security measures, on the other hand, will be incomplete without supplementary social welfare services. These measures ensure protection against the incapacity and provide subsistence to the members of the family and thus acquire the characteristics of preservation of human values from destruction and destitution. There are various methods of social security. The three of those are social assistance, social insurance, and pensionary benefits. A social assistance scheme provides benefit for a person of small means sufficient to meet the minimum standard of the needs financed from the tax funds. Social insurance scheme provides benefit to the person of small earnings out of the funds collected from the insured as his contribution and the subsidies from the employer and the state. Pension is a significant form of social security measure. Government employees, after rendering the necessary qualifying services and seeking retirement, gets one half of the pay in the shape of pension and thus employees feel socially secured. The government has since allowed the commutation of the pension subject to certain rules. In that case, a lump sum amount in lieu of some portion of his pay, which is limited to a maximum of 1/3 of his or her pension, is given to the employee to plan his or her future with the help of comparatively larger amount, viz. Provident Fund, gratuity, etc. at the time of retirement. General or contributory provident fund is another form of social security. This fund is admissible to the central government employees who draw pension, and contributory provident fund is applicable in public sector undertaking. Autonomous organizations who are not entitled to the pension and general provident fund scheme. There are various welfare measures and initiatives for the elderly. The Indian government has approved the National Policy for the Elderly, that is NPOP, on January 13, 1999 to accelerate the welfare measures and empower the elderly in various ways. There has been reportedly little progress in setting up a separate Bureau of Older Person or an autonomous National Association of Elderly, as laid down in the policy. The Maintenance and the Welfare of the Parents and Senior Citizen Act 2007 was enacted on December 31, 2007, which makes it a legal obligation for the children and heirs to provide maintenance to senior citizens. This Welfare Act of 2007 has several financial implications for the elderly parents. However, critics have pointed out that it can never be a substitute for the care given by the affectionate family member. Then there is a concept of Senior Citizen Association. A Senior Citizen Association is a community-based group of senior citizens working together to improve the condition of older people and the community they live in. The senior citizen associations are enormous resource groups that can immensely benefit the society. They are effective mechanisms through which elderly can prepare for and respond to the disaster within their communities. Senior citizens, through their experience and familiarity with their communities, are well placed to identify the needs and vulnerabilities of their family and the neighbor, including the most vulnerable elderly people. In India, the senior citizen associations are doing remarkable work not only for the benefit of the elderly themselves but also for the society at large. Senior Citizen Forum, Bhopal, has successfully organized organ and body donation camp and is instrumental in setting up organ banks so that the donated organs becomes available to the needy in proper conditions and without delay. Senior Citizen Forum in Faridabad, Haryana, contributed its efforts significantly in getting established the first ISO 9001 police station in this state. The Kerala Social Security Mission had started a toll-free helpline for senior citizens and their relatives to call in time of distress. The mission currently operates mobile clinics attached to local body offices for elderly persons in all districts. The Kerala Senior Citizen Forum helps to develop social contact, share friendship and fellowship, exchange ideas and wealth of experience and expertise, and minimize the severity of the solitude and feeling of being neglected in the twilight life of the life. Now let's see some of the economic security measures. Among the problems of the elderly in our society, economic problems occupy an important position. Mass poverty is the Indian reality, and the vast majority of the families have income far below a level that would ensure a reasonable standard of living. The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India in 1999, in their document on NPOP has specified the figure of 33% of the general population below the poverty line, with 1/3 of the population in 60+ year age group. Today, people live longer and into much advanced ages, says 75 years and above, so they might need more intensive and long-term care. There is also inadequate income problem of the elderly in India. The most vulnerable are those who do not own the productive assets, have little or no savings or income from the investment made earlier, have no pension or retirement benefits, and are not taken care of by their children, or they live in the families that have the low and the uncertain income and a large number of dependents. The pension is provided to the organized sector employees and is considered to be fulfilling the requirement of the largest segment of the old age security. Among pension schemes that are contributory in nature are the employees insurance schemes, ESIS, PF and deposit linked insurance scheme, etc. The organized sector constitutes only 4% of the worker in the country, out of which the women account for just 15%. But still, there is no specific reference to the women's situation under the section on healthcare, nutrition, shelter and education in the policy. A massive program has been charted to address the need of the country's elderly. The National Policy for the Social Assistance was set up in 1995 for the poor, and it aims at ensuring the minimum national standard for social assistance in addition to the benefits that states are currently providing or might provide in future. National Social Assistance Program NSAP at present comprise of the Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme, Indira Gandhi National Widow Pension Scheme, Indira Gandhi National Disability Pension Scheme, National Family Benefit Scheme and Annapurna Scheme. The NSAP is a social assistance program for the poor households and represents a significant step towards the fulfillment of the directive principle enshrined in Article 41 and 42 of the Constitution of India, recognizing the concurrent responsibility of the central and state government in the matter. Let's understand the policy of Indian elderly. In view of the rapidly increasing population of the aged, it will be useful for India to take into consideration the policy measures, laws and welfare programs prevalent in many foreign countries for the purpose of formulating a policy for the aging and evolving program and machinery for them. In view of the fact that in India there is no social security system for the general public, but only for the employees of the government organized sectors are governed by a limited social security system by way of pension, gratuity and provident fund. Therefore, any policy has to take into consideration the need of social assistance for the aged population. Several states in India have introduced old age pension scheme for the destitute aged, which has the policy implications regarding the old age pension in India. There are no special arrangements for the health, medical, housing and social cultural facilities for the elderly, which indicates a policy gap in this area. A working group was appointed to assist the government in formulation of policy for the aged and the aged. However, no such policy statement has so far been issued by the government. Now let's review the National Old Age Pension Scheme. In India, the old age pension have been introduced by state government mostly for the destitute and infirm. For example, the government of Uttar Pradesh in 1957 became the first to introduce an old age pension scheme. Since then, similar schemes have been introduced by other state governments. All state governments and union territories have their own schemes for the old age pension, and the criteria of eligibility and the quantum of the pension amount vary among these states. The average old age pension is below the average per capita income per Indian. At present, 50% of the older person under BPL are covered under the National Old Age Pension Scheme. This scheme has been renamed as Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme and was formally launched on 19th November 2007. Pension under IGNOPS is granted to a person who is 60 years and above and belong to a household below the poverty line. At present, the old age beneficiaries are getting between Rs 200 to Rs 1000 depending on the state contribution. Now let's see the National Family Benefit Scheme, NFBS. This is implemented by the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. It was transferred to the state sector scheme after 2002 to 2003. Prior to this period, this scheme was a central sector scheme of the Government of India from August 1995. Under this scheme, social assistance benefits are given to the BPL families in case of the death of their primary breadwinner. The bereaved family gets a lump sum amount of 10,000. Until 2011 and 12, over 36.57 lakh families have benefited under the NFBS schemes since its inception in 1995. The proposed increase is about 37%. The budget for the grant given on the death of a primary breadwinner of a BPL family in the age group of 18 to 64 year has been proposed to be doubled from Rs 10,000 to Rs 20,000 under the NFBS scheme. Now let's see what is Annapurna scheme. The Ministry of Rural Development has launched this scheme in 2000 and 2001. The indigent senior citizen of 65 years and above who are eligible for National Old Age Pension but are not getting the pension are covered in this scheme. 10 kg of rice or wheat per person per month are supplied free of cost under the scheme for the needy elderly. An amount of $56 million was incurred and over 43.03 lakh elderly were covered in the 10th plan. In this scheme from 2002 to 2003, it has been transferred to state plan along with the NSAP. The implementation of the scheme at the state level rests with the respective state or union territories. In addition to the income tax, the elderly owing property have to grapple with the municipal bylaws regarding fixation of the rateable value of their property, calculations and payment of the property tax, etc. It is imperative that the elderly familiarize themselves with these bylaws and procedure of working out or enhancing the rateable value. In most metropolitans, there are associations of taxpayers who guide such individuals, particularly those who are not so much educated or familiar with these rules. Since this matter bothers the elderly, they should get help from the social welfare associations concerned with the elderly. There are some integrated programs for the elderly persons by the Government of India. This program includes some schemes for the elderly welfare. For instance, this scheme provides financial assistance to non-government organizations, that is NGOs, to establish and manage the old age homes, daycare centers, mobile Medicare units, and to provide the non-institutional services to the elderly. The scheme also works towards the other need of the elderly, such as reinforcing and strengthening the family generation of awareness on related issues and facilitating the productive aging. Such endeavors of the state government, if implemented effectively, would no doubt help the elderly person to lead a respectable life. The program aims at enabling the senior citizens to assume an active role in maintaining and improving their own health, besides encouraging others to do the same. The facilities such as old age homes and caregiving facilities to senior citizens are mainly centered in the urban areas. However, in rural societies, the older men and women are largely deprived of such facilities. Longevity is a most challenging positive demographic phenomena of this era. More than at any other time in the history, the world population is living longer. Increase in life expectancy involve many other associated changes. Many of the today's grandparents are mobile and active, which is a positive sign of progress and a reason to rejoice. Among the other developing countries, India is moving ahead to safeguard and protect the best interest of the elderly person through central legislation. The Indian government has also assured that efforts to prevent the destitution would be aided by having enough institutional facilities and provision of old age homes covering all the district to ensure the facility to accommodate 150 needy elderly in each of them. The Department of Pension has set up a pension portal to enable senior citizens to get information regarding the status of their application, the amount of pension, document required if any, etc. The department has also provided additional pension as per the recommendation of the 6th Pay Commission. The Ministry of the Health and Family Welfare stipulates separate queues for the elderly in government hospital, geriatric clinic in several government hospitals, implementing the National Public Health Care Policy for the elderly from 2010 to 11. Age Well Foundation has been set up to seek the opinion of the aged on measures to make their life easier for them, quicker settlement of their pension, provident fund, gratuity, etc. in order to save the superannuated persons from any hardship. According to the Section 88B, 88D and 88DDB of the Income Tax Act, there are discounts on the tax for the elderly person. New provisions has been introduced so that the public distribution system would reach out to cover all senior citizens living below the poverty line. The schematic and non-schematic items proposed for the 12th plan include the revision of the scheme of integrated program for the elderly and strengthening of the National Institute of Social Defense, setting up the National Center of Excellence to look into the dementia-related ailments, setting up National Helpline for the elderly people, protection of life and property, and sensitization about the need and rights of the elderly. Now let's summarize the module. So far we have learned that the aged population of India is growing faster. Aged people suffer due to lack of the socio-economic stability in developing countries. People in developing nations like India are more involved in the informal sector and only 10% of the working population retiring from the organized sector, and hence only this proportion of the aged population have the benefit in form of social security. Most of the elderly who do not have any social security such as the pension have to depend on the earning of their children for their sustenance and medical expenses. There are various schemes launched by the Government of India for elderly for their benefit, but majority of them are not able to take advantages of such schemes due to various limitations. For the sake of betterment of the elderly people, government should include the awareness generation and provision of the basic facilities for the elderly, especially among the rural elderly. Thank you.